现在中国人民已经组织起来了，是惹不得的。如果惹翻了，是不好办的。
早上好，今天是4月1号，星期二。现在我要你去 Rumble、YouTube 和 Locals， 我要你 click share、subscribe 和 notification bell。我们今天也会有一个 post-game wrap-up。我们先会看 Wisconsin 的 Supreme Court race， 我们也会看 Tesla 的 terrorism， 法国的 Marie Le Pen 和 Islamization of Europe。和 FCC versus Disney， 我们也会看 Jordan Peterson 在 Britain。今天我们也会，我要你们知道美国的最聪明的女士，她叫 Sunny Hostin， 好吧？
这很有趣，因为她称这个行政命令为恢复美国历史的真相和理智。可能是这样，虽然这可能是对这位总统和这个国家的许多人来说一个不舒服的真相，但这个国家是建立在努力值之上的，它是建立在免费劳动力之上的，它是建立在黑人事实之上的。对于任何没有去过这个博物馆的人，有几个展览真的非常重要。哪里有艾米特第二的棺材？因为我去过哪里好几次。
All right, people, let's continue. There is a big fight. Oh, it's April Fool's Day, in case you weren't playing along. There's a big fight in Wisconsin right now about the Supreme Court. This is actually a huge, huge story, which we probably should have given a little more attention to, but there's a major election happening today. Let's just dive right in. This is from the Daily Wire. Wisconsin voters will head to the polls on Tuesday to decide the ideological slant of the state Supreme Court, bringing to a close the most expensive state judicial race in history. The race between conservative candidate Brad Schimel and liberal judge Susan Crawford will have nationwide consequences as Democrats are expected to challenge Wisconsin's current congressional maps if Crawford wins. The outcome could also determine how the court rules on abortion, voter identification laws, and union reforms. Schimel, the former Republican Attorney General of Wisconsin, said in a recent interview that he is running to save the court from activist judges like Crawford, saying the court has turned into the most dangerous body in the state government under its current 4-3 liberal majority. My opponent is their hand-picked choice to select a liberal that's retiring, and she's gone so far on the campaign trail and promised to liberal national donors that if she gets elected, she will take out 2 Republican congressional seats and turn those into Democrat congressional seats. Okay, so this is why this is so important. You may not care. I don't know how many people we have in Wisconsin. I do get some emails from Wisconsin now and again, but obviously most of you are not in Wisconsin. But this is why, well, as long as we have 50 states and a federalist system, and some of this matters in terms of what happens in Congress, here's why you should care about this. You may not care particularly about which way the court of Wisconsin leans, whether it leans conservative or liberal. That may not mean that much to you as someone outside of Wisconsin. But if they change their congressional map and they gain more 2 Democrat seats, now you start seeing what the danger could be right here. And yes, it does appear that Crawford, the Democrat in this case, who wants to get on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, did offer these seats up to some liberal billionaire donors. Here's Brad Schimel, the conservative, saying just that.
My opponent got caught. The New York Times got the email where she went on a Zoom call and the invitees were national billionaire donors who can't, liberals, of course. And the offer was get her on the Wisconsin Supreme Court, and they will change 2 Republican congressional seats into Democrat congressional seats. That's what has made this such a nationalized race, because they're not looking to just influence Wisconsin. They're looking to influence the whole.
And that really is why you should care. Again, if they're able to redraw a map, and if a Supreme Court judge is coming in basically saying, help me get in, you'll get some more seats. That's a kind of quid pro quo. I thought we were supposed to be against that sort of thing, remember? Anyway, here is Crawford being asked about selling 2 congressional seats on Zoom. She denies it.
You were recently on a call with Democratic donors who have given to your campaign. The meeting was billed as a chance to put 2 more House seats in play for 2026. No matter how long you were on that call, how was that appropriate?
Well, I don't think that the email that was sent out was an appropriate way to announce a judicial candidate, to be frank. I appeared in a short Zoom appearance with that group. No mention was made of the congressional maps while I was in the meeting. I don't know what they discussed for the rest of it, but certainly no mention was made of the congressional maps while I was in the meeting.
You still chose to join that meeting.
Right. I also did not see that email or the way it was being billed before I participated. I only found out about that after the fact.
Okay, so she didn't see the email, she didn't know about the meeting she was in. Okay. If only we had someone like a Democrat in Congress, maybe Timu Obama himself, the presumptive leader of the Democrats in Congress right now, Hakeem Jeffries, literally saying that this is the plan for the Democrats to win the House in 26. Do we have some kind of video like that? That would really be something.
In Wisconsin, that's a 50-50 race because we know Wisconsin's a 50-50 state.
Yeah.
And we have a strong Democratic candidate. Whoever wins is going to determine who has the majority in the Wisconsin Supreme Court. Why is that important? Because there are gerrymandered congressional lines right now in Wisconsin. Wisconsin's a 50-50 state, as I mentioned, but there are 6 Republicans and only 2 Democrats out of an 8-person delegation because the lines are broken.
Right.
Actually, it's because it depends where people live. And you guys are saying the quiet part out loud. You want to redraw the lines and you want this woman to get in as Supreme Court Justice so that she will redraw the lines. So you'll get 2 more seats in Congress. And then you, Timu Obama, will be the Speaker of the House. That is the plan. And you're admitting it. But putting that aside for a moment, this Susan Crawford lady, she does not seem particularly good. Here she is letting a child molester, a guy who molested, I think, a 5-year-old, walk after 2 years, and she doesn't regret it.
This is Curtis O'Brien, a convicted felon. He sexually assaulted a 5-year-old Wisconsin girl multiple times. Judge Susan Crawford could have given him 60 years in prison, but she let him walk. 2 years in prison. That's it. While his victim lives with the scars forever. She even let the predator live across the street from an elementary school. That was Crawford's choice. Another dangerous decision from Susan Crawford, putting all our kids at risk. She's just wrong for Wisconsin.
On these ads we're seeing, you referenced one. In 2020, you did sentence a child sex offender to 4 years in prison after prosecutors requested 10. Do you regret that sentence?
Yes. I don't regret that sentence.
All right, so it's up to you, Wisconsin. Cheese state, it's your move right now. Not only this congressional seat situation, which could affect the entire country. I mean, basically, it could completely hamper the Trump presidency, right? Republicans lose the House, and then Trump is a lame duck, and you can already see how this whole thing could play out. That's why this is so important right now. But even if you put the national part of it aside, you've got a judge who doesn't regret letting a guy who multiple times molested a 5-year-old girl let the guy out after 2 years, could have been in there for 60 years, and then let him live by a school, doesn't regret it. Like, what is going on there? And unfortunately, the numbers right now are not looking great. This is Eric Daughtry from Florida Voice News. Latest poll shows Wisconsin Supreme Court, Susan Crawford, 52.9%. Sorry, Phoenix, you jumped on me a little fast there. How was that? And Brad Schimel at 46%. That is not good. Scott Jennings over on CNN, here he is talking about how Republicans just don't vote regularly, and he's even warning Elon because all of these things are now deeply connected.
I do think a couple of things are true. Number one, the Republican Party is grappling with a new reality. We have a lot of voters in the party that do not vote regularly. They're low propensity voters. They turned out for Donald Trump. They like to vote when he's on the ballot. But even in the November election, you saw people show up, vote Trump, and then leave the rest of it blank. One of the things the party has to do is condition those people to show up even when Donald Trump is not the person they're voting for.
Yeah, that's just right. Like, we all have to wake up right now. We know that the hardcore MAGA base is always going to come out for Trump, right? And even some of the new people that have come around, the ex-libs and that crew, they came around this time because it was Trump and they understood the connection between, say, MAGA and MAHA and that whole thing. But you can't only do this every 4 years. Again, Republicans lose the House, Then we're basically a year and a half away from Democrats being in control of the House. Everyone knowing Trump only has 2 years left. We already have this crazy fight as it pertains to deportations with lower level courts. Like, you could really see how they could halt all of the progress. So today is it's April Fool's Day, but it is a really, really serious day, actually. Elon's out there in Wisconsin. Again, the guy with Neuralink and the robots and the electric cars and the rockets and all the stuff. He's also wearing a piece of cheese on his head in Wisconsin, telling people that this is important stuff.
Everybody. The reason for the checks is that it's really just to get attention. It's like we need to get attention. And it's somewhat inevitably, when I do these things, the sort of, it causes the legacy media to kind of lose their minds. And then they'll run it on every news channel. And I'm like, I couldn't pay them it would cost like 10 times more, or, to get the kind of coverage that we get. A lot of strangely wealthy members of Congress, where I'm trying to connect the dots of how did they become rich while how'd they get 20 million if they're earning 200,000 a year? It sounds, nobody can explain that. So something's, we're going to try to figure it out and certainly stop it from happening. So
look, Wisconsin is serious, but the other thing that he's talking about there is like just the deep corruption that you guys all know about, that we've been covering with Doge and everything else. And what he said in that clip we showed you yesterday, the people that are freaking out the most about the corruption being discovered are the people who have the most to hide. How did Bernie Sanders, who has been in government for how many years exactly has Bernie Sanders been in government? It's got to be about 40 years at this point. It's 35 years, something like that. How did he, on that, what at times was probably $110,000, maybe it's up to closer to 200 now. How did he become a multimillionaire with 3 houses? How is Elizabeth Warren worth 20 million bucks? How is it that Nancy Pelosi, right? There's the Nancy Pelosi stock trader on Twitter, which always trades way above the market. How did these people all do this? Do you think it's possible that they're maybe up to no good? Why is it that the Clinton Foundation got hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars when Hillary and Bill had power, and then when they didn't have power for a while, it basically shut down? Now it's kind of back. How many years has Bernie been in government? 43 years. Not a single piece of legislation with his name on it that's done anything. Really incredible. So that's why they are freaking out. So if you contrast sort of Elon out there, like, we're uncovering the stuff, get out there and vote, I'm for the people. And then you've got Bernie like, oh, the oligarchs are coming, we must empower the system, we must take more of their money for the system. It starts looking pretty obvious, doesn't it? And the other part that of course we know is that as we're watching these Tesla stations get burned and people, etch swastikas into cars and break windows and all the rest of it, that these are paid operatives. This is the same freaking thing that we saw with BLM. Then it got moved over to the Hamas protests. Now it's being moved over to the Tesla protests. It's exactly the same. There is a playbook. These people are paid. Here's Elon on that.
It's really wild. So, it was inevitable that at least a few Soros operatives would be in the audience. Give my regards to George. Say hi to George for me. Isn't it shocking how much violence and hatred is coming from the left? Isn't it supposed to be the party that they claim to be the party of empathy, and yet they're burning Teslas and shooting up dealerships and calling for the death of the president and me? I'm like, guys, this is insane. Like, they're gone psycho. It's really, I totally understand if somebody doesn't want to buy a product. Yeah, it's up to you. It's a free country, but you don't have to burn it down.
Yeah. And that's kind of what the, let's say, conservative approach would be. Oh, you don't like that Bud Light gave millions of dollars to this guy dressed up as a girl. What the hell was that person's name again? Dylan Mulvaney or whatever. Well, then don't buy Bud Light. You don't blow up a wheat factory, right? And that's what we did. Oh, you don't like that every time you walk into Target, they have clothes for children that show them how to tuck their wangs? Then don't go to Target. You don't set off a bomb or break the window of Target. We are the ones who, I would say, largely believe in the rule of law and realize that your dollars matter and you have some control over that. They're the ones that if they don't get what they want, and in this case, not even they're not getting what they want. In this case, fraud is being exposed, and their response to the fraud being exposed is to vandalize random people's cars because they're the good guys. You etch a swastika in someone's car. Somehow the people putting up the swastikas now are the good guys. That's how confused these people are. We will have more on that in just a second, but first, Prolon. Long work weeks and busy weekends can leave you feeling and looking depleted. Prolon's 5-day fasting mimicking diet works at the cellular level to rejuvenate you from the inside out, delivering real results. And now they're taking it to the next level with the new Next Gen 5-day program offering the same science-backed benefits in a cleaner, more convenient, and more flavorful format. The 5-day fasting mimicking diet gives you a structured, science-backed approach to stay on track and actually see results. And now, with the launch of Next Gen, Prolon is delivering the same benefits in an upgraded, easier to use, and even tastier version. Prolon is a plant-based nutrition program featuring soups, snacks, and beverages designed to nourish your body while keeping it in a fasting state, triggering powerful cellular rejuvenation and renewal. Next Gen builds on the original with 100% organic soups and teas, a richer taste, and ready-to-eat meals that make the experience even more seamless. Developed over decades at USC's Longevity Institute and backed by leading U.S. medical centers, Prolon has been shown to support biological age reduction, metabolic health, skin appearance, fat loss, and energy. For a limited time, Prolon is offering the Rubin Report listeners 15% off site-wide, plus a $40 bonus gift when you subscribe to their 5-day program. Just visit prolonlife.com. That's PROLONLIFE.com/Dave to claim your 15% discount and your bonus gift today. All right, so let's connect these two stories now. So we started obviously with the Wisconsin story, and now we talked a little bit about Elon and Doge, and these things are intertwined. Here's Amy Klobuchar over on the televised mental institution known as MSNBC. You remember Amy Klobuchar. She was a Democrat, progressive, but not completely psychotic progressive, so she's largely become nobody in the party. Anyway, she goes over on MSNBC, and she is trying to sell you the idea that the Wisconsin voters are pissed at Elon, somehow connecting it to the Supreme Court. It's all very confusing, but take a look.
This is Wisconsin. There's a lot of Wisconsin pride going on, pride in their democracy. They have a high voting turnout. They love their state, and they like good governance. So what are they saying? They're saying Wisconsin is not for sale, Jen. Elon Musk has plowed $20 million into this race. It's the most expensive state judicial race in the history of America. There's an incredible candidate, Judge Crawford, who is a prosecutor, a circuit judge. She's just going along her way, a very good choice for Supreme Court, when all of a sudden, pow, in comes Elon Musk, offering $1 million checks to people. This is a state where the people own the football team, the Green Bay Packers. So they are seeing this as the people of Wisconsin versus Musk.
Did you catch what the meme makers of the internet did there? For those of you listening on the audio podcast, that was split in two, and what you saw on the other side was a tweet that was showing that 77% of the money donated to Crawford comes from outside the state. So that's completely counter to what Klobuchar was saying. And it's only 15% outside the state for Schimel. So something very, very weird is there. But the left has its new boogeyman. As I keep saying, they know they've tried everything with Trump, including shooting his ear. They've tried it all with him and it didn't work. So now it's all being put on Elon, that Elon is the bad guy. And when you do that, and when you tell people that the guy catching the rockets and saving the astronauts is the Nazi, well, then you get more of this nonsense. This is in the last 2 days. Here's a little compilation. Does anyone get laid anymore? Does anyone go out? I'm going to get laid tonight. That's the way they did it back in my day. And then you wouldn't be out there screaming Nazi at a random person because he bought a car you didn't like. But if you haven't got laid and if you're confused about your gender and you watch MSNBC all day, you might be doing that sort of thing. It's obviously completely absurd. These people are brain broken. And again, to connect that to the George Soros part of it, look, they're going to figure out, because we have competent people in government, they're going to figure out where the funding is coming from, just like they're going to figure out where the funding is coming from for all the Hamas stuff. And like we found out that all of the BLM funding basically was completely fraudulent and it was a giant Ponzi scheme, so the leaders of BLM were making tons of cash. But if you think it's organic that these losers who can't tie their shoes all have the same cardboard cutout of the cemetery signs and the tombstones and all of that, and they all know how to chant the exact same things and everything else, then I got a bridge to sell you. It is coordinated and planned. It is domestic terrorism when they take over streets and they burn things down, or even having a sign, burn down Teslas. What was the sign? Burn Teslas or let Teslas burn or something. That is a call for violence, and we can either be a serious society or not. You want to stand outside a Tesla and put a sign on your head that says, I don't like Elon Musk because my dad left me when I was 6 and I have all sorts of problems. Well, then go ahead and do that. But if you also are saying firebomb a random person's car and you're putting a hammer to a window, you have a problem. Thankfully, we have a new Attorney General, Pam Bondi, and she's going to treat these people like domestic terrorists, which is exactly what they are.
I've made it clear, if you take part in the wave of domestic terrorism against Tesla properties, we will find you, arrest you, and put you behind bars. Today, I'm proud to announce that the Department of Justice has unsealed federal charges against another Tesla attacker. We've charged Cooper Frederick in the firebombing of a Tesla dealership that occurred on March 7th in Loveland, Colorado. All of these cases are a serious threat to public safety. Therefore, there will be no negotiating. We are seeking 20 years in prison. The crime was committed in Colorado, and thanks to the great investigative work by the FBI, the defendant was arrested in Plano, Texas. Let this be a warning. You can run, but you cannot hide. Justice is coming.
Yeah, and that's what serious people who are supposed to be in government will do. You can't blow up random shit because you don't like somebody. You can't just show up and start pissing on people's cars or rubbing your ass on their windshield. Connor, looking at you. And there's more because good things are happening. This is from Wokeness. Breaking: Paul Kim, 36 years old, pictured right there, is charged with 15 counts for firebombing and firing at a Tesla dealership in Las Vegas. Kim, surprise, surprise, is a pro-Palestine communist. So the guy who blew up those Teslas, there he is, Paul Kim. Paul Kim, look at him. He looks like a hippie. He looks like a guy who should live outside San Francisco doing mushrooms. He was going down that path. Maybe he got a bad batch or something. Next thing you know, you're blowing up a Tesla factory. Let's talk about 1775 coffee for a minute, and then we'll connect the sort of craziness of the left here, what's happening on the ground with our left, to some really bad stuff that's happening in France right now at the political level. You'll see the jump in just a moment. Weak coffee is for the weak. And at Rumble, weak has never been part of our mission. That's why 1775 coffee is the official coffee of Rumble. Bold, fresh, and made for people who stand for something. I drink a lot of coffee. Some of it's been decent, most of it's been forgettable. But 1775 coffee, that's the one I actually look forward to every morning. No burnt taste, no corporate shortcuts, just small batch, single origin coffee with an 85 plus cupping score, making it specialty grade. And you can taste the difference. Choose from dark roast, medium, or vitality mushroom blend. Available in whole bean, ground, and pods. However you brew it, it's roasted fresh and ready to fuel your day. Go to 1775coffee.com/Rubin and use code Rubin for 15% off and start your morning with coffee that stands for something. Oh, and every dollar spent enters you to win a Cybertruck and $30,000 cash, because supporting the right companies should come with rewards. Kind of funny that Rumble and 1775 Coffee are giving away a Cybertruck, and meanwhile, you get it. Okay, so let's jump over to France for a second, because something really, really terrible happened yesterday, and I think you'll see how it's connected to a lot of the things that we've been dealing with here in America. Check this out from Fox News. French politician Marine Le Pen and 8 other members of her right-wing party were found guilty of embezzling public funds on Monday, and she herself was barred for running for public office. The French court did not immediately announce how long Le Pen will be ineligible for office, and she stormed out of the courtroom before he finished reading her sentence. She is a top candidate to run for president in 2027, and Le Pen has said that prohibiting her from running in that election would be political death. Le Pen has argued that such a sentence would also effectively disenfranchise her voters. She came in second place to French President Emmanuel Macron in both the 2017 and 22 elections, and her National Rally party has grown massively in support in recent years. The facts of her case relate to spending of funds from the European Parliament to support aspects of the National Rally party. Prosecutors established in court that the EU Parliament funds were used to pay Le Pen's bodyguard as well as her personal assistant. The other defendants were convicted of similar uses of the funding. Le Pen said she felt they were only interested in preventing her from running for president. So first off, look, I'm not going to pretend that I am an absolute expert in the perfect, most minute legal details of what happened here. So she spent some of the money on security or something like that. They can argue in French court whether they should be doing that or not. The broader point is that Le Pen's party, which has become the sort of pro-France, you might argue it's sort of the Make France Great Again party, basically, because they want to stop immigration. You guys all know the stories and videos and images coming out of France where African and Middle Eastern migrants have completely taken over, and it's always fighting age men and all of the rest of the chaos that it's wrought on their streets. And doesn't this seem exactly what we just went through for 5 years basically of Donald Trump? We're going to jail him for this. He's going to be accused of that. He won't be able to do business here. We didn't get so far as he can't run, although they were angling that for sure, right? They absolutely were. Remember, there were several Supreme Courts, state Supreme Courts, I think Colorado, Maine, that wanted him not even to be on the ballot. And now this appears to be happening in France. Here's Marine Le Pen commenting on what's going on.
Anne Bardella is a tremendous asset to the movement, and I've been saying it for a long time. I hope we don't have to use this asset sooner than necessary. But in the meantime, I am combative. I am not going to let myself be eliminated like this. I will pursue the avenues of appeal that I can. There is a small path. It is certainly narrow, but it exists. I will indeed request in the clearest possible way that the appeal decision be made, allowing me to consider a candidacy for the presidential election. I will always stand by the French people. There are millions of French people who believe in me, millions of French people who trust me. And I am here to tell them I have been fighting for you for 30 years. And I have been fighting against injustice for 30 years. And consequently, I will continue to do so. And I will do it until the end.
Okay, it's worth noting that's obviously AI translation. She was speaking in French. And again, it's worth reiterating, I'm not an expert in the legal part of what's going on here, but I'm talking about this in broad strokes. This woman who has been fighting politically, and she's really been on the right. 30 years ago, she was talking about the immigration problem. So these people, it's kind of like Donald Trump, 2015, build a wall, we have an immigration problem. And then it really came to pass. And now even Democrats like Bernie Sanders are admitting it, even though they're the type of people that did everything to break the immigration system and stop the wall and everything else. So it's like, is this really about, oh my God, she took some funds and paid a security guard? Or is this, oh, she is a threat to the globalist order that wants these open borders and everything else? Eva Vladingerbroek, who I've had on the show, who's an activist out of Holland, here she is, and she's been very, very outspoken of in terms of what has happened to her country, which is very similar to what has happened in France. Here she is talking about the political bias into the investigations into Marine Le Pen.
Okay, so the lawfare being used against right-wing politicians in Europe is being taken to a whole new level. Marine Le Pen, the leader of Rassemblement National, the populist right-wing party in France, has just been sentenced to 4 years in jail, of which 2 suspended, and has been barred from partaking in French politics for the next 5 years. That means that she's been barred from running against Macron for the position of the president of France. She's been convicted for allegedly embezzling European funds, misusing European funds for her national fraction of the party instead of the European fraction of the party, which I dare to bet money on the fact that if any judicial system in any European country would launch an investigation into left-wing parties to see if they were doing that, let's say 80% of them would be found guilty of the same thing, because I used to work in the European Parliament, and trust me, this is something that I think happens a lot more than they want you to believe. And of course, we will never know that because they don't launch investigations into left-wing parties, because the whole aim of this is to crush the right wing in Europe, because we're growing too fast. And so the system, the cabal, needs to come down on us through another way. And what do? Lawfare. They're banning us. They're banning our parties. They're banning politicians from running. They're convicting us of hate speech and hate crimes. That's how they do it. That's the new strategy.
Okay, so there's a little more context in how she used the funds, and I venture to say that Ava's right. Like, look into how some of the lefties in government have used these funds, whether it was supposed to go to their party or the European parties or whatever it was, and I'm going to guess you're going to find an awful lot of misallocated funds and the rest of it. The broader point, though, of course, is that what the European Union, the globalists, whatever you want to call this thing at this point, what they don't want are independent nation states that will stand up for their culture. That is why Conor McGregor is now running for president of Ireland, because Ireland should be for Irish people. It's okay. They can have Guinness and have their shillelagh and enjoy themselves. And yes, that's right, Conor. Conor over here is very excited about that. And that's true, and it's okay. Right? You can decide what your borders look like, what your immigration policy is going to be, what level of immigration you will allow in, if you will allow migrants in, and all of those things. And the same thing goes for France. And the same thing goes for Britain. The same thing goes for every sovereign nation on earth. But the powers that be seem to want to make sure that particularly Western European nations and the US are unable to protect their borders, are unable to protect their culture. And every time someone comes out there, whether it's Donald Trump in 2015, we should build a wall so we can figure out what's going on here, or whether it's Marine Le Pen now in France, or whether it's anyone in literally any of these other countries that comes out, they're called far right, they're told they're Nazis, blah, 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 blah. And this is what we get. Elon kind of summed it up nicely on X. When the radical left can't win via the Democratic vote, they abuse the legal system to jail their opponents. This is their standard play throughout the world. And now, because this story is gaining a little bit of traction, even Donald Trump is commenting on it. This is yesterday at the White House.
Marine Le Pen, the far-right leader, got convicted in court and is now banned from running for office for 5 years. Do you have a comment on that?
That's a big deal. That's a very big deal. I know all about it, and a lot of people thought she wasn't going to be convicted of anything, and I don't know if it means conviction, but she was banned for running for 5 years, and she's the leading candidate. That sounds like this country. That sounds very much like this country.
I mean, that's Trump being Trump, yeah. Kind of sounds like this country, because that's how freaking close we got to them doing exactly that to Donald Trump. Fortunately, it did not work, and there is now a major fight brewing in France. And by the way, it's not like you couldn't have seen this coming. We have seen this coming, right? Why is it that no matter how far left you are, even the way that journalist at the Oval Office framed the question, far-right leader Marine Le Pen. Well, what do you mean by far-right? What does that actually mean? Meaning she wants France to largely be for French people. She wants people to be able to have a baguette and a cigarette and enjoy their afternoon without being mauled by an African migrant. I guess that makes you far right now, right? That's what no one's ever far left, right? If there was some crazy far left socialist, open up the borders, bring all the Hamas people in, burn down Versailles, like everyone would be like, oh, it's just fine. They're just, it's just a lefty. J.D. Vance warned about this. We've all seen this coming. Here's J.D. This is about a month and a half ago at CPAC, warning what was going on in Europe, because it's not just France that's going to have to deal with this nonsense.
Germany's entire defense is subsidized by the American taxpayer. There are thousands upon thousands of American troops in Germany today. Do you think that the American taxpayer is going to stand for that if you get thrown in jail in Germany for posting a mean tweet? Of course they're not. Right? So the point that I try to make to our European friends, and I think that they're our friends, I believe that, I know President Trump does, is that friendship is based on shared values. You do not have shared values if you're jailing people for saying we should close down our border. You don't have shared values if you cancel elections because you don't like the result, and that happened in Romania, you do not have shared values if you're so afraid of your own people that you silence them and shut them up.
Yeah, the last line, that gets it right there. Why is France afraid of its own people? That's the question. Why is France, the power structure that is running France, why is it afraid that a certain amount of its people would like to keep France French? Why is that? What is really going on here? Why is it that when we see our border being overrun, which thankfully has now stopped, why is it that people across the pond, when I was in London a month and a half ago for Jordan Peterson's ARC conference, everyone was like, man, literally every conversation I had, not only at ARC, at restaurants, at bars, everybody was like, why can't we do this here? We pray that Trump succeeds because maybe it gives us a map of how we can do it, because we want to stop this. We want to get our countries back. We want to feel safe. We want our women and minorities and everybody else to feel safe on the streets without feeling like they're going to be assaulted or anything else. And now let's connect this broadly to what's happening across Europe. Why is the left afraid of Le Pen? Because Le Pen's going to try to do something about it. And I don't even know all of Le Pen's policies, right? So I'm not sitting here saying if I was French, I would vote for Le Pen. I don't know. From what I can tell on the outside, I probably would, but I don't know every bit of the domestic policies. But the problem here is that Europe is dealing with an invasion right now, and Marine Le Pen has been calling it out. And apparently there's a certain set of people that just don't like that sort of talk.
Every day, indeed, hundreds more foreigners come to settle in our country and to live with us, intending to live as they do at home. We can no longer let this happen. For many French people, mass immigration is an oppression. Mass immigration is not an opportunity for France, it is a tragedy for France.
Yeah, right? So is that racist? We've been through this. You are allowed to have your own country. You guys get it. We'll have more examples of that in just a second. But first, Rumble Premium. Free speech is under attack, but Rumble refuses to back down. We've always believed in empowering voices, no matter how unpopular, and now we're taking that fight to the next level. When major advertisers conspired to pull their dollars, even brands like Dunkin' Donuts turned their backs, claiming Rumble had a right-wing culture. But we're not here to fit a mold. We're here to defend free expression. To strengthen this mission, we're excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and creators. You'll find exclusive content from creators like Russell Brand, Dr. Disrespect, Timcast, and the Mug Club with Crowder. It's more than a subscription, it's a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. For a very limited time, you can get $20 off an annual plan using promo code RumbleLive. Visit rumble.com/premium and claim your special sale discount today. All right, so if you were that Frenchman, eating your cheese, drinking your Bordeaux, having your champagne, I should be doing this in a French accent, but I'm not. Why would you want your country to remain French? You'd want it to remain French so that this sort of thing wouldn't be happening in the streets of Paris.
C'est la folie. C'est la folie. Regardez comment ils vont casser les voitures des policiers. Le jour de l'Aïd, wesh. Non, c'est pas bon.
French police clashed with hundreds of protesters in Paris as authorities evicted over 400 migrants from the Gaîté Lyrique Theater, where they had been sheltering for months.
Yeah, that last clip there, that's a guy who stabbed a whole bunch of people. Well, Eva's got more on that. Check this out. Again, this is from Eva Vlardingerbroek. Here we go again. Someone just stabbed 5 people in Dam Square. We connected the videos there. So now we're in Amsterdam. Amsterdam's main square. According to eyewitnesses, an elderly woman and a young girl were stabbed in the back. A trauma helicopter was flown in to take care of the victims. The knifeman has been arrested, but surprise, surprise, no further information has been provided. And you saw the video of him in the previous compilation that we just showed you there. So this is happening all over Europe and decent people. These are not racist. Remember we showed you that video last week, the woman, the Irish woman who basically was saying that she supports Conor McGregor because she just wants her little village to be safe again. Like, these are not bad people. We have completely done everything upside down so that the people who are the invaders are somehow thought to be the good guys, the people who are mooching off the system, who are creating chaos, who are doing violent acts, who are in grooming gangs and raping women and the rest of it. And there is a part of Europe that seems to want more of this. This army ad from Britain was going around, and I just want you to try to watch this army ad. In and of itself, you might not think it's terrible, but try to flip the script on this thing. Well, take a look.
بجعلني مقيم صلاتي ومن ذرياتي ربنا تقبل الله ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
All right, so in and of itself, in Western societies, we do want to be tolerant. But what is he praying to? Is that in line with whatever the British Army's mission was? Why are they pushing this type of diversity? Like, you just have to think about what's going on here. You don't want to be bigoted or anything else, but you do have to think about why is this stuff pushed on us constantly? Like, you could have, let's say, a Muslim soldier in the British Army, but if he's putting his religious needs or his need to pray however many times a day or whatever ahead of the mission, it seemed like those guys were out in the field somewhere, might be some danger out there, but he's got to pray. Like, there might be a problem there. And that's in contrast to this video, which we showed you a couple of years ago. It went super, super viral. Look at this video from the Russian army and see which seems more serious, which seems like it will protect itself more. It's not a defense of Russia or anything that Putin has done, but which seems more like a society that is going to be able to survive.
Первый день твоей новой жизни. Что ты знаешь о себе? На что ты способен? Вопросы могут остаться без ответов, но разве ты сможешь узнать себя, познать границы своих возможностей? К черту границы! Ты готов ломать себя? Да, потому что без врага нет боя, а без боя нет победы. Но на самом деле, главный враг вчерашний — ты. Твоя задача выследить врага, догнать его, превзойти, стать лучше, чем он, и вернуться назад.
Yeah, I don't think you need to analyze that. Like, that's pretty badass, as we used to say. And that seems like you're going to get the type of people who are going to fight for your country and your culture and everything else. Again, not a defense of Putin. But you might be watching all this going, Dave, this does feel a little heavy-handed. That the Muslim guy could be in the army and the praying, and, well, you know, everyone should be able to live everywhere, and diversity is our strength, and blah, blah, blah. How bad could it really be getting in places like Britain? Well, this is absolutely wild. If you think that it's not, that the obviousness of the crime and everything else, and just the overrunning of the borders is not bad enough, now this nonsense, this evil, toxic nonsense has completely invaded the British judicial system. This is the British sentencing court has now declared that white men, I cannot believe this is real, that white men will have longer prison sentences than women and minorities.
And saying, I'm afraid to say, these are what's going to happen. And from Tuesday, this is what will happen. Judges will prepare pre-sentencing reports where necessary. And if someone is of ethnic, cultural, or faith minority, or a young person under 25, or a woman, or a pregnant woman, they will get a special sentencing report. Normally, those pre-sentencing reports do mean that the sentence is mitigated, that time is taken off for a jail term, for example. What it means, though, is that white men are going to be treated a lot tougher by judges from Tuesday compared to other groups in society.
That is profoundly evil. It is profoundly against the Western notion, well, a notion that we've enshrined in our Constitution, that Lady Justice is blind, right? They are saying, no, Lady Justice will look at you, and she won't really be Lady Justice. She's going to kind of be Lady Bigotry, because if you're of this skin color and this age, you're going to get this punishment. And if you're a white guy who's 30 who did the exact same thing, maybe you're in a gang and you got a white guy who's 30 and you got a British lesbo and you got a Pakistani immigrant who's 26 and blah, 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 and they're all going to get different sentences. Does that make sense to you? So what is going on with the British? They are falling on the sword, as Gad Saad talks about. They have toxic, suicidal empathy at this point, right? And they don't know what to do. And the good people of Britain are going to be forced out. It is as simple as that. It's the most obvious unmasking in the literal sense, right? Like Lady Justice is supposed to be blind. She has a blindfold in front of her face. I know that's more of an American notion, but it's born out of hundreds of years. Where did we come from originally, right? Like we should all be treated as individuals. No, you did that. Oh, and you were with the guy who looked like that. Yeah, you're going to jail 3 years. This guy, we're just patting him on the butt. He can get going. And this is what happens in multicultural societies that refuse to integrate people properly. And this has been one of the massive faults of the left, and then it's been completely exacerbated by the woke. And Canada has another version of this. So Canada, which has had some of the craziest, most violent, insane pro-Hamas protests, and has let in probably hundreds of thousands of people who would gladly destroy Canadian society, and they were ushered in by Justin Trudeau. Well, now they have sort of like two societies happening right now. So watch this woman. This is a Muslim woman in a burqa, 23 years old, explaining why she can't find work in Canada and why that's Canada's fault.
If you're a niqabi or a hijabi that struggles to find job because of their religion, then keep watching because I got something amazing for you. I'm Manal. I am 23 years old. I live in Toronto, Canada. And the biggest struggle I faced in Toronto was finding a job because I was told on my face, can you remove what you are wearing in order for you to get a job? I know. That's a shocker and a slap in the face, which was a good thing. Blessing in disguise. Let me tell you why.
No, it's not a shocker. Now, she may be a perfectly lovely person, right? Seems totally fine. Sometimes when you're trying to judge somebody, when you're with somebody, you use facial cues. That's why the phrase facial cues. If you can only see their eyes, it really limits the ability for you to read that person. But let's say she's a perfectly fine person, but you just own a restaurant and you're hiring a hostess at the restaurant. Do you want someone, when people come in, that they cannot see that person at all? And if your answer is you better damn well hire that person or you're a bigot, I think you're a little confused about how human interactions work, right? Like it is not incumbent on anyone to hire someone that doesn't represent their organization properly. If she wanted to get a job at Lululemon, would that really make sense? You can't see what she's wearing and you're at a clothing store. I mean, we could do a million extrapolations of this. So if she wants a job, I suppose she could get a job at a mosque or a madrasa or maybe at a tech support center where no one is gonna have to see her. But there's a reason people dress a certain way. I'm not saying she can't dress like that. She can. I believe that Canada is a free society, at least for now. It may not be for the, let's say, Indigenous Canadians much longer. But it's just obvious. That is not because of the bigotry of Canada. That is because of thousands of years of how humans are able to judge each other and interact with each other and being able to see people, being able to smile at people, being able to nod at them. It brings us all together. But if you put up a giant barrier between you and everyone else and then you say, well, look at them, they're bigoted, we got a problem. And we know we do have, although it's lesser here in the United States, we do have a problem. Columbia on the Upper West Side of New York City, which is Hamas Playground 101. Here are a bunch of Columbia graduates who likely their parents, they didn't pay for it, their parents likely spent about $400,000 or $500,000 for them to become radical anti-American activists. And here's a bunch of them ripping up their diplomas because we deported a Hamas supporter. Sometimes, there's such perfection in that. It is true, you are ripping up your Columbia degree, and actually, it's funny, because Columbia taught you to be someone who would rip up your Columbia degree and be for a terrorist organization that is still holding at least one American right now, and to hate America and all of those things. So it is actually worth, in the ironic sense, you're kind of doing the right thing because it made you, and that's the problem. But it's not just Columbia, as we know. I mean, the Ivy Leagues particularly have been infected with this nonsense. This is great over on MSNBC. They get a Yale fascism scholar. That's his title. He's a fascism scholar, and he's leaving the United States. It's not just television funny lesbians like Rosie O'Donnell and Ellen DeGeneres. This guy, Jason Stanley, a fascism scholar, not a fashion scholar. That's a whole other thing. He's leaving the U.S. and he's going to Canada, though, which wait till he figures out what's going on over there.
Cited the current political environment in this country as why you're leaving, why you're heading to Canada. Is it impeding you from teaching what and how you'd want to teach?
Oh, absolutely not. Yale has, to this extent, protected its scholars, unlike Columbia, who forced, for example, Catherine Frank, a prominent law professor, into early retirement. So it has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with my children and my desire to send a warning to Americans that is consonant with the work I've been doing.
Oh, so your school hasn't done anything to you, but you're just going to go because you're so brave and you're going to go to Canada. And maybe you can get a job with the burqa girl. You guys could open up, I don't know, like a poutine shop. That would be something. Now, the difference, guys, because we're 50 minutes in and you're going, wait, Dave, this is all very depressing. There's a lot of depressing things happen out there. The difference, guys, between what's happening, first off, we're losing guys like him out of America. That's good. But the other part of all of this is that we are doing the right things in America right now. We got pretty close to the precipice of doing to Trump what France is doing to Marine Le Pen right now, and we didn't do it. And now we have a government that's uncovering fraud, and we have a government that is bringing people in like Tulsi and Bobby Kennedy and Pam Bondi and Kash Patel and all of these things, and good things are happening. And check this out. This is from new chairman of the FCC, Federal Communications Commissioner Brandon Carr. I have asked the FCC's Enforcement Bureau to open an investigation into Disney and ABC. While Disney started as an iconic American company, it recently went all in on DEI. I am concerned that their DEI practices may violate FCC prohibitions on invidious forms of discrimination. So, because we know that Disney, we're 3 years past don't say gay, which, by the way, you're still allowed to say gay in Florida and nobody comes gets you. DeSantis's goons don't knock on your door and pull you away. Remember, we had a year of everyone screaming, my God, don't say gay in Florida. Nothing has happened. It's just like everything else that the media does. DeSantis won. The don't say gay thing happened. There's still gays here. Have you been to South Beach? I don't go there. It's a little gay for me, but you go, don't you? Anyway, Disney senior VP, here's a Disney senior VP being caught admitting that they do illegal DEI hiring and they don't really like white men.
Certainly, there have been times where, there's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Just kind of unspoken.
There are times when it's spoken, but
how would they say it?
There's no way we're hiring a white male person.
Like straight to you, or okay?
They'd be very careful how they message that to agents.
According to these videotapes, Disney blatantly discriminates against white men in particular.
I think I'm sort of well prepared for it. I'm well positioned for it. But as far as Disney's concerned, I'm a white male. And that's not who they're looking to promote at the moment.
Well, you're a schmuck for being part of Disney then. Disney is discriminating against me, but I work at Disney. It's very exciting. That's illegal. That is illegal. You are not allowed to be discriminated against on the basis of your skin color, right? We have anti-discrimination laws. The most libertarian type person out there, or like ANCAP person, might say you shouldn't have those laws and every company can do whatever they want. There's a very, very libertarian argument to make for that. But as long as we do have laws like that were passed around 1963, 1964, then companies cannot do that. So they are going to be in trouble right now. So the very same places that were preaching tolerance and diversity actually really just meant if you're white, you're screwed. And you can very easily connect that to the story we just told you about in England. If you commit a crime and you're a white man, you're screwed. If you commit a crime and you're a black lesbian, you're going to be okay. Do you think over time that's going to create a society that's going to be whole and safe and thoughtful and allow people to prosper, or it would just create the conditions for absolute chaos? I think you know the answer. Here's one more from Brendan Carr on all that.
Your probe into Disney's DEI policies. Their senior counsel writes, this is all about bullying and intimidation. Mr. Carr's most powerful tool is his vote on the commission to approve mergers and acquisitions. Is this about Disney's hiring practices, or is it about something else?
Yeah, this is about the hiring practices and their employment practices. Look, broadcasters, and Disney owns one, ABC, they have an obligation under federal law. We have EEO rules at the FCC, which means you can't make hiring decisions based on protected characteristics, including gender and race. And the evidence we have so far indicates potentially that Disney and ABC were making employment decisions based on race and gender, including having effectively race-defined affinity groups within the company. We have evidence that they put quotas in place based on specific demographics. If the evidence does, in fact, play out and shows that they were engaged in race and gender-based discrimination, that's a very serious issue at the FCC.
Yeah, it is a serious issue because, as I said, in 1964, the Civil Rights Act was passed, and you cannot discriminate against people based on the color of their skin. So you might look all the way back to 1964 and go, well, what they were trying to do at that time was make sure that people don't discriminate against black people. Okay, that's fine. That's great. You shouldn't. You shouldn't. Now, again, there's a separate argument whether the government should have anything to do with all of this. But as long as the government passes something, well, then it means, because we have individual rights in this country and we have equal protection under the law, that if you're going to pass something that says you can't discriminate based on skin color, originally because they were afraid that people were going to discriminate against black people, well, then you can't now use that to discriminate against white people. It's as simple as that. The point is that America, we have done some of this stuff right, and now we have the competent people in government, like Carr right there, who are going to make sure that companies don't abuse this to usher in neo-racism. So to bring us home here, how about we choose a better path? And speaking of better path, check out this tweet from the Better Path Twitter account. Look at this. I mean, this kind of sums it up nicely. And it's a quote from G.K. Chesterton. When a society loses its moral compass, it collapses from within. And what you're seeing there, 1992, that's a Calvin Klein ad, 1992. No, that's not me. That's Mark Wahlberg, and what was her name? Kate Moss, I think. And then what does it look like? You know, basically 30 years later from Calvin Klein. It's two obese, I don't know, seemingly gender queer. I'm not sure what they are. So did we go in the right direction? I'm not saying everybody has to look like Mark and Kate Moss, but what are we doing to our societies? Why are we creating weak people? Why are we creating the conditions to let anyone in to destroy the whole thing? Why are we doing it? I think it's largely because we've forgotten our past. We have forgotten that we have been given and granted like the greatest freaking thing ever. And if we forget that, man, it's going to be far away in that back mirror really, really quick. But it's going to happen to the British, and it's going to happen to the French and the Germans and the people from Holland and across Western Europe way faster than it happens to us. The British have a particular struggle with this right now. Here's Jordan Peterson on that.
It was the first trip I took to Europe. I'd saved up money for a whole year to travel through Europe for a few months with some friends of mine. It was the age of London that really struck me because I'd come in from Western Canada and hadn't traveled much at that point. And of course, Western Canada, the town I grew up in, was only established in the 1930s, really. You know, and to walk into pubs that had been around for 500 or 600 years was, you know, something unheard of in Canada. The magnificence of the architecture and the fact that things were built to last. The Parliament buildings are remarkable, and the castles, and the depth of history and the stability of the country, all of that, and the freedom. It's all an amazing achievement as far as I'm concerned. One of the things that we learned in the West, and one of the things that's part of the great English journalistic tradition, is that journalists in particular have the freedom to say what they want and think what they want, and that keeps everyone, including the journalists, honest and on track. And we sacrifice that, especially at the feet of the idea that no one is to be oppressed by anything anyone else says. We sacrifice that at our complete peril. It's the cardinal right, because when people speak freely, they're able to think And people orient themselves in the world by thinking, and they re-update the state by thinking, and they conquer unknown lands by thinking. And if you put restrictions on their ability to speak freely, then you put restrictions on their ability to think, and all of those other processes grind to a halt. And then everyone suffers for it. You guys got so many things right. English common law tradition and the parliamentary tradition, and you know, it's been a great gift to everywhere in the world as far as I'm concerned.
So I don't care where you're watching this show from today, whether you're right here in America, whether you're in Britain or any of those countries I mentioned, or whether you're in Asia or South America. To whatever degree you have a free society, you have an ability to think, or speak really, which then leads you to think for yourself and communicate with others so that we can organize properly, you better hold on to it. Because what's happening in certain places in the world where those traditions were born, like Britain, well, now in Britain, they've largely opened up the borders. Now in Britain, they have a two-tier justice system that's going to largely go against the native white British guy. Does this seem fair? So we're stopping it here, but that doesn't mean that it can't come back. I mean, to connect it to the top of the show, with this Wisconsin situation, they redraw those things, Republicans lose the House, Trump's a lame duck, we could flit it all away very quickly. So this show was a bit alarmist, but considering we started with a Chinese version of me, it could have been worse, I suppose. I thank you for watching on this April Fool's Day. I hope you have a great day. We got a post-game show coming up in about 30 seconds, rubinreport.locals.com. See you tomorrow.
You seen these? Is that? My godson got it for me. They were all over the place. We got to bring one into the club.